Legend of Zelda changed everything. Following in the legacy of Hydlite, you play as Link in Hyrule while aided by a fairy, attempting to rescue Princess Zelda from the evil Ganon. The game needs no introduction. It has an excellent theme, but musically that's all it's got. Excellent gameplay, and a group of followers rivaling the Final Fantasy fans that play all their games and probably debate on the chronologies too much. For me though, the Zelda series always got itself stuck in the mud, in a way that Final Fantasy never did. Many of the games are the same one over and over, with only a few modifications. Link usually saves Zelda, and the bad guy somehow always turns out to be Ganon, which I always found kind of stupid, and it gets kind of dull after a while. I played, 2 or 3 Zelda games. I never really got into it. I can't call myself a fan. But instantly, Final Fantasy set itself against Zelda. Saving a princess was the whole point of Zelda? Well, Final Fantasy would make that just the first mission, practically just a demo. The kidnapper is the final boss Ganon, while the equivalent to the Ganon in this game would be a pushover. Link is a heroic warrior? Well, there's only one response to that. Therefore, as a Final Fantasy fan, I must toe the party line and hate Zelda. Especially since Ocarina of Time booted Final Fantasy VII off GameFAQs' Best Game Ever poll. Something that never should have happened.
Hey, listen! Hey, listen! Hey, listen! Hey, listen!
Final Fantasy could have totally copied Zelda and made a rip-off game, as is so often done, but instead they created something original, something that doesn't happen anymore. But god damn, it took them a while. Square's first response to Zelda was a game called King's Knights, and, well, good thing for you, you'd never heard of it. Trust me, this game fucking sucks. They tried to make it an overhead view style combat game like Zelda, and instead of having one hero, you have 4 who meet up to save the world. But it's like they didn't know how to make a game like this, and you have to suffer through that. Square was losing money, and needed a boon. As the story goes, Sakaguchi made the bold decision to make the epic masterpiece he'd been planning. An RPG that was an epic quest, combined with solid immersive gameplay and an excellent story. And because it might be his last project, he'd call it the Final Fantasy. The fantasy to end all fantasies. It would be the greatest game of all time. Now that sounds great. You tell me that, and it's candy to my ears. Give me any story with a bunch of heroes traveling around a fantastic landscape and saving the world, and I'm there. I couldn't wait to play the first Final Fantasy because of this. If only I knew. Final Fantasy was built by a one-man army, Sakaguchi. He got the best talent he could think of. His failed college dropout Hiromichi Tanaka to design the game, Nobuo Uematsu to write the music, Yoshitaka Amano, a professional artist to do the artwork, who claims he based all his hero designs off of David Bowie. That explains so much. And Square veterans Nasir Gabelli, Kenji Terada, and Akitoshi Kawazu to program. Amano did all the logos and design, and has a unique, fantastic style. But rarely does any of it get into the games. I mean, look at this. This was supposed to be Garland. And this is what the game looks like. I wonder how he coped with that every single game. Finally, Sakaguchi would write the story. Yeah. But more importantly, he almost single-handedly promoted the game in Japan when few would help him. The game would become a financial success, but it wouldn't come over to North America on the NES until 1990. They based the role-playing game off of Dungeons & Dragons and Dragon Quest mostly, allowing for the first link in the network of a good Final Fantasy game to be built in. Superior customization. We'll be talking about this a lot, so I might as well get this out of the way. What exactly is a good Final Fantasy game, and what makes it good? There's a lot of things, but I think there's at least 6 things that everyone can agree makes a good Final Fantasy game. First is an immersive world. Then there's a good story that's long, well-paced, and has actual characters. As for the gameplay, there must be some very flexible customization, a decent difficulty curve, and a hint of innovation. Finally, there has to be some excellent music. Every good Final Fantasy game is a classic for different reasons, but they all share these 6 things. As for music, thanks to the masters of video game music working for the Final Fantasy series like Nobuo Uematsu, Yasunori Mitsuda, Hitoshi Sakimoto, Kenji Ito, Masashi Hamauzu, Naoshi Mitsuda, and Yoko Shimomura, that's almost never been a problem for the series. Until the unspeakableness. But for Final Fantasy I, though it has many good themes, it just has so little music it gets very repetitive. They have double the amount of songs the original Zelda had, but Zelda only had 5 or 6 songs, and a lot of them were just short fanfares. The first Final Fantasy gives us the prelude. The Final Fantasy opening theme. a battle theme with Uematsu's classic bassline. The absolute classic victory fanfare. And 5 dungeon themes: Matoya's Cave, Chaos Temple, Underwater Temple, Gulugu Volcano, and Dungeon. These songs are good, but the NES and the Famicom has given us better stuff. For fun, let's compare the main themes of Final Fantasy to Zelda. It kills me inside, but Zelda wins. But that will not happen again. The Immersive World. Now this is the hardest attribute to achieve. It comes with the indescribable interplay of music, graphics, and plot. But the main gist of it is, the game has to transport me to another world. This world has to be a self-contained reality, and put me into the fantasy. There can't be one extraneous attribute of this world that doesn't figure into the story. And reciprocally, the world has to also define the story. As an aside, I just saw an article about the movie Avatar, and how there are a bunch of moviegoers who are so pathetic that they saw the world of that movie, and they got so disillusioned with reality that they've gone into depression. That's the kind of immersion I'm talking about. The first Final Fantasy just doesn't do that. I'll give it credit, the game is a stimulating gaming experience at times, but I don't believe in this world for a second. It just seems like I'm playing a mediocre video game the whole time. Most of the world consists of mazes and dead ends, put there just to piss you off and kill you. And another thing, normally I don't care about graphics unless you can't see what you're doing because of them, and so I wouldn't complain, but it needs to be said. The graphics for this game, even for 8-bit, suck. Sure, the world map is almost okay, even though it's almost monochrome, but the battle scenes in the stores look like shit. Almost like they forgot to finish it. If you look at the remastered versions, you get a hint of what this game could have looked like if they spent a little more time on it. The sprites would have to be 8-bit, but the designers could have certainly made it look something like this. Instead, we only get a hint of background on the top, covered by 8 giant black bricks. Amana's artwork isn't allowed to shine in this game, because all we ever remember about this game is that this is the one with the black bricks of 8-bit shit. They could have done something instead of just putting black. Generally, you spend your time thinking about that more than you do the whole world in this game. If you want this game to look good, hell, if you want to enjoy this game at all, play the remastered versions. The remastered versions at least have this animated prelude to give the story a bit of oomph. And there's also this new FMV. The warrior is fighting this kick-ass dragon. And where the hell was that in the game? And another thing, if you played any Final Fantasy game before, you're used to seeing the damage numbers appear right on top of the thing getting hit. This is an era before this was really possible, or at least before they knew they should have done that. So who gets hit and how has to be conveyed solely through text, and the damage numbers are always shown in a little box at the bottom. It's confusing as all hell. Worse, there's barely any battle animation. The enemy just stands there and flashes, and your heroes only step forward. When it's their turn, they do nothing else. You lose track of what's happening very easily. The story of Final Fantasy is very... No, sorry. I couldn't keep a straight face. There is no fucking story. The game is long, and there are characters, and some messed up time travel concept, but it all adds up to random garbage. I mean, this game starts out with this epic prologue, and then nothing happens. You hear that the world was destroyed by the fiends 200 years ago, which explains the lack of people, but nothing else. You spend the whole time traveling around from town to town, listening to people who whine about their misfortunes and beg you to save their ass over and over. And that's it. Now for innovation. Fighting RPG battles is very tedious when done for 50 hours, so any tweak to make it more fun is greatly appreciated. This is the only category this game excels at for its time. Compared to games out now, there's nothing special about it, But this game defined what an RPG is, leaving games like Dragon Quest in the dust. Having customizable characters with different jobs in the first place was new. Having an RPG that didn't revolve around saving a princess was new. Having a game that was 20 plus hours long was new. But that was 22 years ago.